but that 88 is pulling away.
Earnhardt, Johnson, Menard, Blaney. Third-generation star Dale Earnhardt Jr. brings him to the flag. Checkered flag waving. It's over. It's Earnhardt. Earnhardt trying to cover all spots.
Oh, yeah! Good job, Junebug.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. Checkered flag at Talladega.
Why is this one so much fun? Because your grin told so many stories on your cool-down lap.
It's just real emotional. I haven't won here in a long time. My daddy's birthday a couple days ago. Just real emotional, man.
My nerd thrilled.
So I became that fan last weekend in the grandstands at PIR, Phoenix International Raceway. I almost wear it as a badge of honor, to be honest with you. When you're going to purchase tickets for a race, if it's a race that's not going to be sold out, and usually it's the second race of the season at Phoenix International Raceway that gets sold out, and so you can do this for the first race of the season. If you wait about a week out before you go and purchase your tickets, and you go online, and you can pick which area you want to go and sit in, and you can see the empty seats available in all those various spots. The trick is, normally when you see a big row of tickets that late in the game, people haven't purchased them yet. It usually comes down to a ticket dealer, or those tickets were reserved for an outside entity to give them away, promotional tickets. So usually when you see big sections that are open like that, usually it means that they were in the hands of somebody else and they weren't used, and so now they're available. What you can do is, if you sort of choose, like for me, and this only works if you're going by yourself. Okay, so if you're not going by yourself to a race, then it doesn't matter. But if you're going by yourself, if you pick a ticket that disrupts the flow of two seats together, you can almost ensure that you end up sitting with a lot of space around you. Sometimes they don't let you do that. Sometimes when you go to purchase tickets, it'll tell you have to pick a seat that has at least one seat or two seats on either side, and so they don't end up having those holes so that people like me can't go and do that. But it turned out that I picked the right section to sit in for the race last weekend at Phoenix. And welcome to the Dale Jr. race preview. We'll get to Auto Club Speedway here in just a few minutes. So I ended up having like a lot of space around me, a lot of space to myself, and it worked out. It was just really nice to be able to have some space. As a matter of fact, a couple of the guys around me kind of moved around, and I had a seat empty in front of me. I had seats empty on both sides of me, and then I just had somebody behind me. So it ended up being a really good experience. But Dale Jr. ended up running so well and started so far back in the field that it was really exciting to watch. Not to mention the fact that in those closing laps, he was starting to gain on Harvick if it hadn't have been for that restart, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But I ended up being that guy in the grandstands, and I was jacked in. I was plugged in because I'm listening to the in-car audio at the time, and Dale Jr. passing car after car after car. I'm kind of doing the cheering in my seat, and when he just drove up and took the lead away from Kyle Busch, I stood up and cheered. I really have no idea how loud I was actually being. I did realize that moment when I stood up that I was kind of the only person around me that was doing that. But I don't care, man. I'm at a race, and Dale Jr.'s my guy, and I was excited. But that sense of self-awareness did finally hit me, albeit probably too late, only because I didn't have people around me, right? Because I was in such the zone and I had such free reign. I kind of just got so into the race and listening to the in-car that I just ignored everybody around me during the race, and that, gave me the ability to get really excited. And I was worried, just like everybody was on that restart. They really got that car dialed in, and for those that don't know, if you were watching the race last weekend, the second to last run, Dale Jr. worked his way up into the top 5 and drove up and took the lead away after a restart, after starting 26 last weekend. And there was a run before the last run where he just couldn't go anywhere. He was mired back in, I think, 7th place, and he just couldn't move up the field. Well, he didn't turn his fans on, and so he's burning his brakes up. if he had switched his fans on, if he hadn't have made that mistake, that run, I still think that the race would have shaped up to be somewhat different than it ended up being. I really do think that he would have had an opportunity to get up there and perhaps even walk away with the win. Now, you've got to get the cautions to fall the right way, and you need to make sure that call at the end is the right call. You know, Dale Jr. was damned if he did and damned if he didn't in terms of those tires on that last restart. And, you know, walking out of there with a 5th place finish, which is about what I figured he was going to end up at, was okay at the end of the day in my book. It was just exciting to see him up there competing. And once again, you know, sort of me being a naysayer on this low downforce package, you know, it's working to his advantage. And I think it's going to work to his advantage at Auto Club Speedway. During the race on Sunday, I really do, and I'll get into that in just a moment. I think I've already welcomed you to the podcast, right? Yeah, I think I have. Let's talk a little bit before we get into the race preview part of it and what's happened so far and my expectation for tomorrow's race. This is a big weekend. I love Auto Club Speedway. I've been to that track a few times. Really kind of bummed out I'm not there this year. Wanted to get out there, but it just couldn't make it happen for a number of different reasons. But you know, I love Auto Club Speedway because I love the big tracks. I really do. And this is a tough track now. The ruts in it are huge, and it's so bumpy. It makes it really challenging. You add on top of this now this low downforce package, and this is becoming a very special race in my opinion, and it should be a really good race tomorrow. Now, it's also a special race because of the promotion going on, and these types of promotions are the promotions that I enjoy the most because it's the blending of two things that I love. It's NASCAR, well, actually 3 things: NASCAR, Dale Jr., and movies. And I'm a big, Batman, Superman, superhero genre fan. I'm looking forward to Batman versus Superman as much as anybody else. And this whole Batman v Superman Heroes Face-Off weekend between Jimmy Johnson and Dale Jr., I just think is a lot of fun. We're probably going to get sick of it by the end of the race tomorrow. If you're not sick of it already, if you've been on Dale Jr.'s Twitter feed, you'll see that he's just been having a ball with this hashtag Hero Face-Off and all of these different tweets as it relates to him and Jimmy Johnson, Superman versus Batman, and the GIFs, all these jokes that Jr. has been doing at the expense of Jimmy Johnson, and Jimmy Johnson doing the same thing to Jr. This is, of course, all part of the promotion. I have no doubt that this promotion of the movie, being somebody that works in entertainment, if you will, being a talk show host, I know how this stuff works. There's a requirement for certain things that need to be done to fulfill the obligations of the sponsor. So for Warner Brothers and for this movie, I can pretty much guarantee you that it's been stated Dale Earnhardt Jr. will tweet, X number of tweets using the hashtag Hero Face-Off with something related to this promotion. Make no mistake. Now, I think Dale Jr. uses Twitter anyways, and so he has no problem doing this. But what you're witnessing is a combination of Dale Jr.'s sense of humor, him on Twitter and on Facebook, and in discussing the race when he's being interviewed, and also the requirements of this particular promotion for both of these cars to be sponsored by Batman versus Superman. If you haven't had a chance to, go online, and you can see it a little bit on TV, but it's worth going and searching for either just online or on Twitter or on Facebook. Try to get a good up-close view of this Dale Jr. Batman scheme. I put it up on my Facebook page because I change my Facebook page, my Facebook banner every week to represent whatever car Dale Jr. is running. And I know I had some non-Dale Jr. fans kind of going, wow, he couldn't have picked any colors for his car this week. And I had to explain that it's a Batman promotion. He's driving the Batman car, and so of course it's going to be gray. But if you really take a close look, this is a really, really detailed paint scheme. it doesn't show up in sort of the random photo. You got to get up in really good light and look at it. There's almost a green hue on the front. There's details within the Batman symbol on the hood. The side of it's got a ton of detail. The roof does too. On the headlights up front, it's got this blue shimmer as if the lights were on. I mean, it is a really, really sweet paint scheme. I have the, and I actually have it in my hands right now. I have the 1/64 scale die cast. I picked it up last weekend at the race. And if you take, like, if I took my iPhone and I turned the light on, the really bright light on the flashlight on the iPhone, and I'll do it right now. I think I have, where's my phone at? Here it is. I'll actually do it right now. You turn the light on it, and you can see the amount of detail in this car. I mean, even the gray on the side of it is all textured. I mean, it is a really, really sweet paint scheme. I mean, you can't really tell, again, just sort of in passing glance, but if you can get an up-close HD picture of it online, I would really encourage you to go and check it out. I'm kind of bummed out that I didn't pick up a Batman shirt at the race last weekend. I saw a few and I almost did, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the merchandise at the racetrack. This is my second experience using the Fanatics sort of the tent they have now for the merchandise, because they got rid of the haulers. And after using it for the second time, I'm going to say now I am not a fan of it, and I'll explain why in just a moment. But if you get the opportunity, go and check it out online. It is really cool. It's a lot like the Halo paint scheme from last year for Halo Guardians. That was another really, really detailed paint scheme. And I'd be curious, and I haven't seen yet who designed these. I'm going to say it was probably the studio, because Jimmy Johnson's paint scheme is as equally as detailed as Junior's and is done the same way. I know Dale Jr. puts a lot of effort into designing his own paint schemes, but this seems like something that was done by a different organization, like from the movie studio, who gave options of what the paint schemes could be, because Dale Jr.'s designs usually evoke an older designer and are a little bit, or not a little bit, are a lot simpler than the amount of detail that's going into this car. It almost makes me want to get the 1/24 scale, and I just might. I usually don't buy the larger versions of the die-cast unless it's going to be the mainstay paint scheme, just because I like to save my money. This one, though, I might just go and do that, because it's that cool of a paint scheme. Speaking of merchandise, just really quick, and then I want to talk about the merchandise tent. There we go, the Fanatics merchandise tent at the track, and then we'll get into tomorrow's race and practice and what ended up playing out. But in terms of merchandise, there are a few new items up on the websites, but really nothing new, nothing worth talking about that's any different from what we talked about last week, except for all the Batman stuff. So if you were interested in getting the Batman v Superman, I would probably go and do that this weekend, because they usually do a limited run on those particular items, and I would imagine that after this weekend, and largely based off of how Dale Jr. does tomorrow, that a lot of that stuff is going to be gone. But I did go to the track, and if you haven't been to the races since they got rid of the haulers, what you do is you essentially go into this gigantic merchandise area. And there's two incredibly tall tents that are all broken up into the different teams. And it's like walking through a store. And you have all of this access to the merchandise. I don't like it. This is my second time going to purchase items there, and I waited to buy. I wanted to get another shirt for the Nationwide paint scheme, and I wanted to get another shirt for the Exalta paint scheme. I had one for each season, but I usually get two for each of the main paint schemes. And they had a wide selection, don't misunderstand, but they didn't have anything in the size that I wanted, extra large or double XL, depending on the style of shirt. And if you've purchased merchandise before, you'll know that, if you wear an XL, you really got to pay attention to what type of shirt it is, if it's coming from NASCAR Authentics, if it's being made by NASCAR, if it's being made by Hendricks, because they run different sizes. So some of them you'll have to end up getting, like for me, I got to get a double XL for some of them just because they're too small, while other times the XL works just fine. But I was just really disappointed in in some of the merchandise I found. Most of the stuff that was there I also did find online, but I couldn't find the right sizes. The designs of the shirts really